They forced her to marry an unknown man for money. She didn't want to, but when she saw his face... Charlie was about to marry a man she didn't even know. The day before, she cried for not being able to do something about it. She was finally about to walk through the door, but what she saw next made her heart beat to the limit. As that well-known phrase goes, nothing in life is free, and in the end, everything will have a price and we must pay it. Greetings everyone, and welcome to our channel. The story that you will watch next is real, and it happened in China, more specifically in the Yunnan province. As always, before we begin, make sure to press the like button and subscribe to the channel so that we can bring you more interesting stories like this. If you don't want to miss a single one of our uploads, press the bell button to be notified whenever we post a new story. Charlie was a very beautiful girl. She applied and was eager to improve herself, but unfortunately her life was not rosy. From a very young age, she suffered a great loss. Her mother died when she was only 3 years old. Her father was left a widower, but after 2 years, he fell in love again. Charlie now called another woman mother. She was very kind and loving to her, but when Charlie turned 8 years old, she received the news that her father had suffered an accident. No one supported him when he was run over and died. Charlie was now left in charge of her stepmother. Luckily, her dad had left a great house and some savings that could help them in the future. However, soon Charlie would know true suffering. Her stepmother began to act differently. She was no longer affectionate, but treated her badly. Soon, that woman would marry another man, and with the passage of time, they would spend all the money Charlie's father left. And as the girl grew up, she was treated as a servant and had to take care of her 2 brothers who were not even hers. But she learned to love them as if they were her own. In fact, she took care of them because their parents weren't responsible. After finishing out Charlie's father's money, the couple forced Charlie to work. In the town where she lived, she dedicated herself to selling sweets on the street, and all the money she earned had to be given to them, who just spent it at home doing nothing, waiting for easy money. Charlie wanted to study, but it was difficult to do so. She didn't even make it through high school due to having to work. She was a noble girl. She could easily have escaped, but she felt sorry for her stepbrothers, and since she was the oldest, she felt that she had to protect them. One day, the youngest got sick, and Charlie had no choice but to look for a job in the city. China is one of the most populated countries in Asia, so due to that, getting a job can be challenging for many people, and sometimes the salary is not enough. Charlie managed to get a job in a coffee shop, but the pay wasn't good. One day, while she was at her job, she received a call from her stepfather. He told her that she had to send them more money, and before hanging up, he told her that he had found her a husband and that he was going to be paid lots of money on the day of the wedding. He told her that it was a good man and the family was wealthy. In fact, they had just moved to a good area, so her stepfather ran to his house to offer Charlie's hand. When the man saw how beautiful she was, he accepted. This had come as a surprise to Charlie because marriage had not been on her mind. It was really unexpected. It just didn't feel right. She didn't want to get married. She didn't even know who that man was. But thinking that this union could help her sick stepbrother, she had no choice but to accept the proposal. In China, many young women marry men they don't know, since their parents agree to give their daughters to the highest bidder. 2 weeks later, a luxurious car arrived at Charlie's work. The girl's boss in the cafeteria told her in amazement, "A guy came looking for you." It turns out that the suitor had sent his chauffeur to take Charlie to her stepfather's house. The unknown man was no longer wanting her to work. That day, she quit her job, and all the people were astonished to see such a luxurious car in a common coffee shop in the city, but Charlie wasn't even surprised. She finally got in and the driver told her, "Miss Charlie, it's nice to meet you, but I see you're sad. You should be glad since soon your life will change for the better." She just nodded and asked the driver, "What is he like?" "He's a good man. I can't tell you more. You must know him yourself." After a few hours of travelling, Charlie finally made it home and her family welcomed her. Upon entering, she noticed a great change. Everyone had new clothes. Her stepbrothers had new school supplies, even a laptop. And even the smallest one who was ill had his medicines and a nurse taking care of him. It was incredible what she was looking at. That man who had asked for her hand was helping them just for her. She was sad, but at the same time happy to see that her stepbrothers were no longer hungry. "My dear daughter, you'll be married in a few days. Your future husband is a very good man. He's giving a lot to us," said the stepmother. "Daughter, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't have this. We love you." Finally, a week passed. The door rang and Charlie went to see who it was. When she saw the driver again, "Hello, I've come to take you to buy your wedding dress." The young woman was very astonished. The driver smiled at her. They got in the car and went to the centre of the city. Then they came to the store where the dresses were over 13,000 yen, and the woman was confused and insisted that it was better not to spend so much money on a dress, that she could get it at a lower price. But the driver told her that his boss had given orders to buy her a dress from that store. The girl couldn't say no, knowing all the support he'd already given to her family. She, of course, chose the cheapest dress in the place, and then the driver took her to another store to buy the necessary jewellery and makeup. Finally, the girl left with her purchases, went to the vehicle, and then came home with everything that was bought. Within 5 days, she would marry that man, and until now, she still didn't know him. So, that's how the unexpected day arrived, and once again she heard the doorbell. Charlie was finishing her makeup, hiding her eye bags from crying. Her family had already left the place to go to the ceremony. Then she opened the door, and in front of her was the driver. "I've come to pick you up. Are you ready?" he asked. Then she nodded and got in the car that would take her to her new life, a life with a completely unknown man. What more could she ask for? 2 lifeless parents, and now she would lose her life too. Along the way, she began to cry. The driver noticed that and said, "Why are you crying?" "I cry because I don't want this. Maybe if my parents were here, none of this would have happened. I could have left, but my stepbrothers are everything to me, and I never thought this would be the only option for them to be okay. What I do for them. I would have liked to study. I would have liked to live my life my way, to marry the man who I know and choose." The driver only said, "I understand," and was silent. Minutes later, they passed an avenue, but there was a lot of traffic. It turned out that an accident occurred a block from there and a girl was seriously injured. When she saw no one was approaching, she immediately asked the driver to stop the car and ran to the little girl to help her. Charlie was lying next to the girl, who was bleeding from an injury, and her luxurious dress had been stained with blood, but that didn't matter to her. She was the only one who acted selflessly to help, while the other people just stood by, gathering to observe. Maybe she didn't want something similar to happen to what happened to her father. Fortunately, the closest hospital was a few blocks away, so she managed to get her there with the help of the driver. Once the girl was in good hands, the bride finally thought about the wedding ceremony, which she'd be very late for, so she rushed out of the hospital. Charlie asked the driver to hurry as much as he can, and when they arrived, she was first to quickly get out of the car and approached all the people who were waiting for her. Everyone was looking at her worriedly. Her dress was all stained with blood. "But what happened to you?" they asked. "Where is the man who asked for my hand? I came to get married as we had arranged," she exclaimed, almost crying. "Daughter, he's behind you." The girl turned around and she couldn't believe it. It is there that she discovered that she had already seen him and had even talked to him, since the only man she looked at was the driver. Yes, the real boyfriend was the driver. He approached her and said, "Charlie, I'm very sorry that you had to go through all this. You see, when your stepfather came, I got very interested in you. You seemed like a beautiful woman. I couldn't stop thinking about you, so I called him up and told him that I wanted to marry you. But first, I wanted to make sure I knew what you really were like. After witnessing everything you did to help your stepbrothers, after seeing how those 2 people who should have taken care of you like real parents made you suffer, after seeing how you saved that unknown girl and ruined the expensive dress you had and arrived late at the ceremony, I will be lucky if you are my friend and not my wife, as I expected. In the end, you will decide who you're going to stay with. You're free." At that moment, the step-parents spoke. "Aren't they getting married? And the money he promised to give us?" said the stepfather. The man told her, "There's no marriage, there's no money. From now on, Charlie will no longer be alone, and I will appoint her some lawyers so that she can obtain custody of her stepbrothers, since you have never taken care of them. And, by the way, start thinking about moving, because that house belongs to her. It's the only inheritance from her real parents. Charlie, from today, you will have my full support. You will study and fulfill all your goals. Take it for granted." Tears of joy began to flow from Charlie. She couldn't believe it. It was something she didn't imagine would ever happen. Eventually, Charlie and that mysterious man named Wuna got to know each other better. and couldn't be without each other, so they got married. They started a family and had a beautiful son. They also took back Charlie's house and got custody of her stepbrothers who were still young. The step-parents now know what it's like to work for real and no doubt regret not being nice to her. Without a doubt, a fact that leaves us a lesson. If you do something good today, fate will know how to reward it. But if you do something bad, there is no doubt that you will also have to pay for it. Thanks for watching this video. Please don't forget to share it with your friends. Bye.